Today's webinar is going to be about everything you need to know about water damage and as it relates to Google Maps in 2025. Now, the key in all of this is that things are changing rapidly in search right now, especially with the introduction of AI and all of those sorts of things that are happening in the online space. I'm going to give you what I know as of June 12th, 2025, and we're going to touch on AI, how that's impacting search, how it's impacting the results that are coming up online. But at the end of the day, a lot of times the fundamentals are what is missing on a lot of profiles. And so we're going to talk about those too. So if you are a restoration company, go ahead and type 1 in the chat there if you wouldn't mind. If you're another type of company, that's fine too. But I just want to make sure I'm talking to the right audience. And great. So we're talking to the right people here. Now I'm going to share my screen with you and we're going to step through these slides. It's going to be about 30, 40 minutes here, but I promise you I will stay if you have any specific questions about your profile, and we could potentially do a live audit on someone if you would like to do that as well. And I'll show you and give you my exact recommendations on what I would focus on for your profile. So we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Going to do one more poll here to make sure you can see my screen. If you would not mind, just let me know in the chat if you can see my screen. Perfect. Okay. Yes, can see my screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so what we're going to cover today, just a quick introduction, some common problems we're seeing, what matters in 2025 for Google Maps, some of the biggest challenges, profile trust signals, claiming your profile. If you've ever had to go through the verification process in Google Maps, it can be a little frustrating, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. If you've gone through that, it can be painful. We'll talk about reviews and reputation and how that matters and how your website actually connects into all of this as well. And then we're going to develop some action plans and takeaways for you so that way you can get the most out of this session. If you wouldn't mind, please just give me 30 minutes here. I promise you're going to get some value out of this. Even if you have a profile set up and you think it's the best profile, there's a lot of new things out there right now. So I'm going to share those with you. Just give me your attention here for the next 30 minutes. If you stay to the end, I'm also going to give you a free copy of a book that I wrote on the restoration industry for internet marketing, and then some checklists and all of our previous recordings about how we do our blueprint and increase visibility in phone calls for our clients out there. A little bit about me. I'll just shortly touch on this. Personally, I've been impacted several times in the restoration size of things. When I was super young, my house got struck by lightning and burnt down. And as a homeowner, I've experienced a flood myself. And that's why I have a passion for this industry. And I have a passion for internet marketing. And so I was able to connect those together and build an amazing team around our blueprint and our strategy. And, we've been in the space since 2017. And we're working with over 65 companies across the country now. And ultimately, I'm just here to give back. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the chat. I will answer them along the way. We do have a podcast, and I said before, we have a book. So that's where my passion comes from this industry. We help a lot of companies across the country and on a day-to-day basis with the support of my team. We are able to increase that visibility in Google Maps. And my true goal here in 2025, whether I work with you directly or you get something out of this, I would love to be able to help and impact 100 restoration companies in 2025. Last year, I had a goal of 50. We crushed that, and we're going to be headed towards 100 this year. Let's talk about common issues we're seeing. Obviously, there's tons of competition in your market, right? And it's extremely expensive to get that phone ringing. And sometimes there's extreme highs and extreme lows with that, right? And that is not changing. Results that you got 12 months ago online is definitely different than what it is today if you're just doing the same things. So You need to have a proven strategy in order to get results. Sometimes even implementing a strategy like that doesn't fully work, and so you have to have come up with new ideas and new ways of looking at it because the online space is constantly changing, right? And so joining sessions like this helps you become more informed so that you can make better decisions, right? And so usually what we find is that 10% of the companies out there are getting about 90% of the jobs because they have a strong reputation, they have a strong brand, and they have a strategy in place. If that strategy has to change, they're able to adapt and modify that strategy. And usually what happens that equates to three main things. It's about visibility, branding, and reputation. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Okay. And typically, what I like to do here is just do a gut check. Where are you at with your company? Are you in the bottom left-hand corner where you're a situation where no one really knows who you are and how you can help? And if that's you, usually you can lean on a couple different levers. You can go out and pay per lead, or you can build a brand and rely on referrals. Best of both worlds is doing all of those, having multiple fishing poles in the water so that you can catch more fish, right? Google Maps is a key component of that. So when a disaster happens, you know, homeowners or commercial, they have mainly three options that they can go to get help. Call the plumber because they need to stop the emergency now. Call your insurance company. Or they pick up that phone and they do a search based on the problem they have. They don't typically go out there and search water damage restoration. They're going to search for the problem they have. My basement's flooded. Who do I call? Those types of issues are where you want your company to show up. And if you can show up, then you get the opportunity to get the jobs. There's a lot of terminology that's getting thrown around out there now. AI is one of those, PPC, SEM, marketing, Google Maps. I know I need to do a lot of all of this, right? And so, depending on where you're at in your growth of your business, you focus on different aspects and you can only do so much along the way. What I'm going to try to do here is give you a very specific plan on Google Maps, what you need to focus on. And every situation can be a little bit unique depending on a lot of factors, but I'm going to try to touch on as many as possible. Okay. To keep it very simple here, there's three factors to success in 2025. It's about showing up in the top of the results. Okay. It's about visibility, about having a strong brand presence and having a strong reputation. If you don't have all three of these, or you're not working to dial in all three of these components, it can be very, very difficult to compete with many of the large companies out there that have been established and have a strategy for these three approaches. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't get there. You just have to work on them over time. Today, specifically, we're going to talk about the visibility component related to Google Maps. And so with that, this is sort of a typical search, and this is changing because of AI search mode. If you've noticed, Google dropped a couple weeks ago AI search mode to compete with a lot of the chat GPTs and Claudes and Perplexities and all these other apps that you can install on your phone. But this is a typical search result in the water damage space as it is today. It does vary depending on your market, but you'll see at the top you have Google Guaranteed. Then you have the sponsored section, which is where you have pay-per-click. Then you have the map section, and below that you have organic. Over half of the page is taken up between maps, Google Guaranteed, and sponsored. Okay, so maps is extremely important. And Google's new AI mode search is going to take a lot of information that you have in Maps in order to determine whether they're going to recommend your company in that AI search. So it absolutely does matter. Google Maps matters, right? And so that's the question I was going to pose here is, does it matter? Absolutely. Yes, it matters. You can see the visibility from there. If we just go back a couple spots here, the stars on that map here are I call it the Amazon effect. And basically, which of us have gone out to Amazon and purchased a product or a service that doesn't have a reputation assigned to it? It doesn't happen, right? And so that's why Maps is going to always be important, and Google Guaranteed links directly to that. So the stronger you can make your Maps profile, the stronger your Google Guarantee profile is typically going to be as well. Okay, so let's dive into this here. This is what a map's profile looks like when it has strong visibility. Each one of these have little dots on the map here. These are GPS coordinates. And so if you were to search for these companies and you would look for water damage restoration, these companies are getting recommended all over the place by Google because they have strong brand signals, they have strong reputation, and they talk about what they do, where they do it, and the other people that they've helped. So this is what we're looking for on a visibility factor. Okay. And Google Maps will drive a lot of phone calls. And I'm sure that's why you guys are here. What we've learned is that Google Ads is an effective strategy, but Google Ads is like going to Disney and paying for a fast pass. It's super expensive. It's hard. It's hard to justify those speeds and all of those sort or spend and click amounts and costs, and so it can be very, very difficult if you don't have an ads budget of around $5,000 in a decent sized population. It's very difficult to compete. But what you can do is compete on a Google Maps level because if you're local and you have a strong reputation, you can get phone calls from there. Some of the biggest challenges we've seen over the last couple of years, there used to be 7 listings on Google Maps. Now there's only 3. Sometimes you'll also have 4 with an ads component in there. You'll also see that Google local service ads and PPC are pushing maps down the page a little bit. And so that's a factor that comes into play there. And then it's extremely hard to verify businesses. I don't know if you could in the chat there, has anybody had any struggle getting your business verified? Put a 7 in the chat there if you've had an issue with getting your Google business profile verified or getting your address on your Google business profile. If you haven't, you're lucky. But if you don't have your address on your business profile, you're going to struggle with getting visibility in your local market. Okay. The other thing is it's hard to expand in large metropolitan areas. And so you'll go out there and do searches and you'll see, hey, I'm not showing up. I'm showing up by my office. I'm showing up by my house, but I'm not showing up 3 blocks away. It's a very common problem. And we're going to talk about some ways to combat that. And then you're going to also see situations where you see a bunch of quote unquote fake profiles that are set up at people's houses, or the same business has multiple profiles. It's a very common thing that happens in this industry, but we'll talk about that as well. And then reviews are a major factor. I know that it's difficult sometimes in this industry getting reviews, but you really have to get your team really involved into that review generation process, and we're going to dig into that. So again, Google Maps is extremely important, and I want to make sure that if you have a Maps profile that's set up and verified, I highly recommend you sign up for Google local service ads. If you have 3 reviews on your Google Maps profile, I would definitely sign up for that. And I have a webinar that talks a little bit more about Google local service ads, or it's also called Google Guaranteed. And so I'll get you access to that on how to verify that profile and everything and get that set up. But they work very closely in 2025 now. So if you don't have a Google Local Services account, this is the URL that you can go to get it, or you can just go out and search Google Local Service Ads and you can sign up for it and then connect that into your Google Maps profile. So I just want to drop that in there. Let's see. You had a question. What will be the minimum number of reviews you need for Google Local Services? Yeah, typically it's 3. It used to be 5. I believe it's 3 now. You have to have at least 3 Google reviews on your profile in order to get impacted on Google Local Services or to get approved on that. So here's another factor that is happening out there. Google says that they've reduced the fake number of reviews by 70% since 2025. Not the number of views, but the Google Maps profiles, number of fake profiles out there. It used to be you could get a postcard delivered and you got a Google Maps location, you could set up 10 of them. No longer. It's you really have to have detailed documentation, especially in the water damage category. And so this is a good thing for legitimate businesses that have an address, that have a local presence. If you work out of your house, it's going to be much more difficult for you because you have what's called a service area business. And it might look pretty because you have a circle around the entire metropolitan area. But if you don't have an address on your profile in a water damage space, you probably are not getting a lot of calls and a lot of results on there. And that's the number one thing you should work on. Okay. So what could hurt my rankings in Google Maps? Again, you need to have an office in the city you're targeting to rank well in Google Maps. Let's just throw out an example. I live in St. Louis, but let's say Chicago. If you're in Chicago and you actually live in Rockford, or your office is in Rockford, which is a very distant suburb of Chicago, and you think you're going to get phone calls from Chicago, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. The same holds true if you're in Fort Worth, Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth area, and you're outside of that city limits or don't have a Dallas address. There's not a chance you're going to get leads off your Google Maps profile. So you need to have your flag planted in the area you want to get jobs out of. I know it's not always possible, but if you don't, it's an uphill battle because it's just a huge factor that goes into the rankings and visibility. Okay. If you don't have an address on the profile, like I said before, you have something called a service area business, and that will not get you phone calls in 2025. If you go out there and search for water damage restoration company in your specific area, you're going to see that 9 times out of 10, those profiles have addresses on them. Okay. And so if you can't get an address on that profile, you're going to struggle. There's nothing I can tell you on this call here that's going to totally change that for you. Okay. So that's the number one thing I would work on is getting an address on that profile, whether it's a co-working space, not like a big high-rise co-working space, but a small place that you can have a sign and whatnot. So that's a key factor that's going to hurt your rankings if you don't have an address. The other thing is if you did you try to spam Google with fake locations? So let's say you had one location, you're like, I'm going to create 5 more, and you use the same name, same website, same phone number. Not a good thing, and Google's going to flag those listings, remove them, and probably penalize your main listing. If your name, address, phone number is not consistent all over the place online, you're going to have an issue with that as well. So that can be a factor. And did you spam the city and keyword in your company name? That is a factor too. So if your company name is legitimately Restoration Company of Atlanta or of Dallas, then that's great. You got a DBA, you got a business license, and all of those say that. But if you put in Restoration Company dash water damage dash mold dash fire damage, more than likely that's going to get reported by a smart competitor out there, and your profile is going to get taken down, and you're not going to get anything out of it. Okay. So the name is important, but you have to have the documents in order. Okay. That's an important factor. Okay. So if you are, let's say, in a metropolitan area and your company name is Restoration of Dallas, and you have a Dallas address, and your website talks about you servicing Dallas, those things line up really well for you to have ranking factors. But if all of that doesn't line up, you're going to have struggle. Okay. Do you have enough reviews across the web? This is another factor. Yes, Google reviews are the most important, but do you have reviews on Yelp? Facebook reviews are a little weird now, but there's other profiles, BBB, that you can get reviews on and all those sorts of things. Those are important factors in ranking. Okay. So let's dive into our formula for getting into what we call the 3-pack, the technical term of showing up in the maps section. Okay. I saw a question posted out here. If we have offices and co-working spaces, different cities, and they didn't have approved on Google Maps, but we have a contract to pay for that spaces for 3 years, and we don't get benefit from them, how can we make them useful to us, please? That's a tough one. Stay to the end. I promise I'll touch on it. Okay. Let's table that one. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your business profile trust signals. All right. So brand authority is a huge trust signal. So what I mean by brand authority is when you search your company name, does your Google Maps profile actually show up? And so it's a common issue with a lot of very close related names, but in your immediate area, does your brand profile, does your Google Maps profile show up when you search just your company name? And then the results on that search, do you have your Facebook profile, your LinkedIn profile? Do you have your website showing up? Do you have BBB showing up? Do you have Yelp showing up? If you have all of those sorts of things showing up, you're creating a brand profile. Google trusts brands. The biggest brand in this industry is ServPro. Love them, hate them, like them, I don't care. It's just the reality. They have a strong brand presence, and Google trusts that, right? And so it's really easy for them to have a strong brand presence. Independents, other franchisees, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult. You have to have all that brand authority set up, and that involves all of those online properties, right? The other thing here is verification method. Did you go through a situation where your profile got suspended, that the profile is not verified now, uh, any of those sorts of things in the past? Those can be major issues that can hurt your profile and the trust of your profile. If you went out and bought fake reviews, very big issue. Don't buy fake reviews. That's a major red flag. Google's clearing those off, and you can actually be sued. They can take you to court over it now. So I've heard instances of it, right? Other trust factors that are extremely important is the number of reviews you have and the consistency of those reviews. Okay. If you see some competitors in your market, you have 200 they have 200 reviews, and you only have five, you're going to have a very difficult uh, ability for Google to trust that you can help those searches. So they're going to not recommend you. But if you get 4 or 5 reviews a month on your profile, you can start to compete with them then. Okay. So other things that you can look at is making sure that you fill out all the information on that Google Maps profile, such as uploading photos, making sure a detailed description is there, your hours, all of those sorts of things. Have a logo on there, cover images, and images of your team and images of your office. Those are important trust factors that Google's looking for. Replying to reviews, putting holiday hours if you're closed at a specific time. Most of us are 24/7, but those are important factors too. Um, if Google provides a space for it to be filled out, fill it out. All right. Other things that are going to impact your Google Maps rankings and visibility is local link strategies. So, are you involved in your community? Are you in sponsorships? Are you in community events? Do you do the local parade? It sounds silly, but it's so true. It costs you $100 to join a parade, and you got a branded truck that says your restoration company on it, right? And then you get a link on that local chamber's website that says you guys were part of the parade. Very, very important signals that Google needs to understand that you have a local presence. Okay. Do you sponsor scholarships for school districts or colleges, or what are those other little things, right? Those don't cost you a lot of money, but if you're in a situation where you're trying to move the needle on a local level, those are things that large companies with strategies in place are doing, and that's why they're beating you out. Okay. The other thing is, you can talk to other companies. So let's say you have a plumbing referral partner set up. You want to create a blog for them or sort of piece of content for their website about what to do if your house is flooded, and get that content on their website, and it will link to your website. That's basically a backlink, and that will give you a trust signal that then flows into Google Maps. Okay. So those are important factors. So those are some things about link strategies that you can talk about, that we talk about. As long as you have a couple of those dialed in, those will help you with the local factors. Very wordy slide here, but I'm going to touch on a few things here on optimization. Okay. Make sure you have ownership access of your Google business profile. If some marketing company or somebody down the street that helped you set this up, or former employee, has ownership of that, and you lose this profile, it is so painful to get back. So make a note for yourself to go out to google.com/business. Make sure you have ownership of that profile, just to safeguard yourself, because you're going to put so much work into building this up and the strength of that. And last thing you need is a rogue actor to take that over from you. Okay. Next important factor is the name of your company, right? If the name of your company, we talked about that before, is stuffed, don't stuff keywords in there if it's not on your DBA. Okay. So don't just go out there and change your name if you don't have the documentation to back it up. If you change that name, address, or phone number, I guarantee you it's going to trigger what's called re-verification. Okay. So be careful making any changes there. Make sure your website is assigned there. I can't tell you how many profiles I looked at, and their website's even missing on their Google Maps profile, right? There's no connection there, or it's the wrong website. Or you click on the contact book appointment, it goes to the homepage. Put it to your contact page. So yes, you will get a recording of this. I promise. We'll be sending that out afterwards. As far as phone numbers, try not to use an 800 number. Use a local number if you can. PO boxes, UPS stores, they no longer work. Don't even go that route. Find a local office, a shared space, something like that other businesses have addresses and profiles. Upload as many photos as possible. It's a huge factor as well. So those are some factors there, and I showed you some examples there. List your hours of operations and then connect your social profiles, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all of those profiles you can now connect into your Google Maps profile. And so when Google's AI algorithm is going out there to determine, does this company get recommended for this searcher, they're going to look at a lot of different factors, okay? And so these are some of the things that they're going to look at. Some of the other best practices, I talked about photos before. Make sure you're posting on your Google Maps profile a couple times a week. You don't have to overdo it 10 times a week, just a couple times a week. When you're doing those posts, talk about your services, talk about jobs you've completed, talk about your reputation and reviews that you've had, okay? Get reviews consistently. Take a look at how many your competitors are getting and try to have a plan in place in order to get there, okay? Respond to all reviews, positive or negative. You can flag and get some reviews removed if somebody slanders you or calls out your employee or yourself. You can get some of those removed, but it's very difficult to get all of the negative reviews removed. And then there's another section on your Maps profile where you can answer questions that people post. So you can even go out there and post your own questions. You can say, what are the service areas that you guys cover? Like, what are the towns? And then you respond as the owner and say, we do these 10 different towns or these different suburbs, right? So you can do those on, those are called question and answer. If you don't have something set up called Yext or what are called citations, these are all these little sites here that have your name, address, website on them. You definitely need to look in doing that. And you don't get a bunch of leads off of these things, but what it does is it creates a strong brand presence for your company and get your exact name, address, and phone number out there across the entire internet. Another thing that you can look at is something called data aggregators. Infogroup, Foursquare, Neurostar, the big three. And basically what that does is distributes, once you submit to those, it distributes all your information online. Again, I'm getting into the weeds here, but I'm just trying to let you know that there's lots of factors in order to get your company to be recommended by Google, okay? Let's dive a little bit more into reputation because usually, everybody's still with me here. I just want to make sure you're still with me. Put a one in the chat if you're getting something out of this. This is making sense. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. Reputation is by far one of the best things you can do for your own company. And so I'm going to talk specifically about this on a couple of different slides here. And I know we're already 30 minutes into this, but I don't want to just glaze over this because no amount of marketing, I don't care if you've worked with 10 different marketing agencies or the guy down the street or across town. If you don't have the reputation to back up what you say about your company, it will not work. Okay. It will not work. So you have to have a strategy for this. And I'm going to give you our blueprint here. Okay. As I said here, online reviews count more than ever. And how do you stack up against your competitors is a real problem that a lot of companies have. If you just go and collect that check, do the job, collect the check, and you move on to the next job and you don't get that review, you're only hurting yourself. You're only hurting yourself. So you've got to have a strategy, whether you're using QR codes or your team has an iPad there, you got to have a strategy in order to get that review. Okay. I talked before about responding to reviews. And all of those sorts of things, but leverage tools. So the best chance to get the review is when you're on site, right? You've got an iPad or you got a QR code that that person can scan, the homeowner or the business can scan, and get that review right then and there. As soon as you leave, your chance of getting that review probably drops in half. All right. And if that's the case, then you can use text and you can use email, but we all know how busy we are, right? I've got 4 kids myself. I transport them all over the place. I feel like daddy taxi sometimes. I get busy. I'm not going to submit a review, 10 days after I'm not working with your company, right? So the best time to get that review is after they've given you a compliment and you've solved their most important issue, and that's before you leave there, okay? Um, the other thing you want to do is make sure that you utilize those reviews across all your social profiles and your social media posts and all those sorts of things. Okay, so review consistency is huge. Uh, Basically, what they do is they reviews will help you improve your keyword ranking, especially if the review talks about what service you provided and where that service was at. Now, here's the important factor: don't stuff a bunch of keywords in there that used to work in 2022, 2023, but not in 2025. Google's too smart now, and so just naturally ask the homeowner or business, we want to help more people like you. And the best way you can do that is by sharing your experience of working with our company and how we helped you, right? And ask for help from them. You just helped them, and now you're asking for help from them is the best way to do it. Who doesn't like to help other people, right? And so that's the way you ask for reviews. You don't just go say, "Hey, can you submit a review for me?" They're going to say yes, and they're going to move on about their life. You ask them, I need your help. I want to help more people like you. Okay. And that gives a much more personal story. And then coach them a little bit. Say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, mention that we did water damage for you in your basement and the neighborhood or location you're at, right? And how our team helped you, right? So that's how you want to set up your review strategy and make sure that it's from local people. Um, what do you recommend for reviews? I'm sorry, give me more context there to your comment. So if you're mentioning like how do you to see if they like you. Okay, not really sure what you mean there, but basically, if they gave you a compliment, they like you, right? So if you showed up on time, you help solve their problem, they like you. That's when you say, "Hey, I want to help more people like you," and the best way you can do that is submitting a 5-star review for us online, right? And so you're coaching them about that, okay? And do that in person. Usually is the best way. All right. So don't ignore your website. This is the next important factor on Google Maps rankings. There's a direct correlation between Google Maps and what is on your website. What we know right now in 2025 is AI is causing less visits to your website. It doesn't mean that Google is not looking at the content on your website, what you're saying on your website, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to give you answers and you're not even really, a lot of visitors aren't even going to go to the website. Okay. And so Google is going to feed that answer based on what their AI has looked at on your website. So there's a huge factors that you have to make sure you have in place. It's a hyper local content strategy is where you're going to win. Okay. Google's algorithm is basically looking at a local searcher and they want to reward local businesses that demonstrate authentic local connections and local experience, right? And so creating content about the locations that you serve, the jobs that you've completed, local weather problems, like if you're in a hurricane area, talking about guides of how to prepare for it, and other issues that are commonly present in your area, right? So you're in Texas, basements. 95% of the time, you don't want to talk about flooded basements, right? But slab damage, all those sorts of things, maybe crawl spaces, all of those things you want to talk about, okay? And don't just throw up a article that says, Common reasons we help people with water damage. You want to be very specific. Common reasons why we help, or common issues in Dallas that we see, or we had you create a case study that says a homeowner in Dallas had a dishwasher line break, and this is how we help them, right? Very specific. Tell a story of how you helped a specific person in a specific location. That's how you're going to win with AI. If you go out there and search, a lot of times you're going to see Reddit posts out there. And the reason why Reddit is winning is because it's a very personal, people sharing their personal experiences. So don't just create blog content to create blog content, create personal stories and relate it to your services and how you help somebody. Next thing here is a little bit more technical, but it's related to SEO, and it's called Schema. If you don't have Schema set up on your website, again, it's a bunch of ones and zeros stuff. I don't want to go into that part of it, but it's a question you need to ask whoever's helping you with your website. Do I have local business schema that talks about my business? Do I have service schema, emergency service schema, review schema, FAQ schema, how-to schema? Okay. These are what AI is picking up on, because basically what an AI is that a little computer bot that's in some data center somewhere, and it goes and visits all these websites and it tries to understand what that website is about and who they're helping. And what Schema does is it simplifies it for them. It creates a code that says you're a restoration company in Dallas. They provide these services. These are the reviews they have. And this is the how-to and frequently asked questions and everything like that. So when somebody says, who do I call for flooded basement? Who do I call if my refrigerator line broke? And you have content related to that, that's how your company gets recommended. And it all connects into Google Maps, okay? The other thing we'll talk about here is AI-ready review strategy. So we already talked about reviews, but again, train your customers to talk about the specific services and then respond with a very detailed message about what they said on the review. Okay, that's going to help you there. And then make sure you have positive. Even if you get a negative review, try to turn it into a positive. How can we help you? Give us a call. We want to make this right. Those sorts of things. The sentiments are extremely important. If you're creating content on your website, make sure you have reviews embedded into that content as well. All right. Then the local content strategy also relates to, if you have storms coming in, you can create social media content and then link that to your website or any guides that you might have about flooding and all those sorts of things. So those real-time elements across social media don't always generate you jobs, but they generate positive signals to Google and to your Google Maps profiles. I'm not going to dive too much deep into this because we do have a very detailed webinar that talks about website ranking factors, but there's a ton of ranking factors here, a ton of keywords that need to be included in your content, whether it's water, fire, mold. I'm going to give you this list here, and you can download all of those keywords that you can relate to it. So really, what we talked about today was how you get more visibility in this map section here, which is also going to help your Google Guaranteed or Google Local Services ad components. Okay, so hopefully you had some key takeaways here. We're not done. Just going to finish this up real quick here, but hopefully you got some key takeaways from this. Just to recap, this is what we've covered. Now we're going to create a quick action plan. I hope everybody's still with me here. Put a 1 in the chat if you would, please. And we're going to wrap up here 5 minutes. Okay, awesome. 111 means you're getting a lot of it. Awesome. Okay, good. So ideas for you. I'd love for you to take out a piece of paper and write down 1 or 2 things that you want to take a look at for your specific business. Here's a list of everything we kind of talked about here on the webinar, and there will be a replay, I promise you, for that. But if there's 1 or 2 things that you want to take a look at, review strategy. Do you have that in place for you and your team? Are you signed up for Google Local Service ads that's connected to your maps? Might want to take in a look at that. Go out there and search your company brand name. Do you dominate those first 2 pages for your company brand name? If not, got to get a strategy in place in order to set up all those profiles and everything like that. A good way to test is search your brand name versus your direct competitor you think is showing up all over the place. How many profiles do they have set up? Make sure you have similar profiles set up. Okay. So those are a lot of things that you can take a look at there. And when you do that, I'd recommend to focus on three of those. And then the final component is who are you going to get to help you work on this? If you're the business owner, ideally, this is probably not you. You either have your team, you reach out to somebody that you're already working with, or certainly you could call us and we could help have a strategy on that as well. Um, so I always like this quote here, never put off until tomorrow what you can do today. So make sure you got one or two things you're going to focus on. Make sure that you have a name associated with them. If it is you and you're just a one man or woman shop, then that's fine. But ultimately, you need to have a strategy, right? And it's about visibility, branding, and reputation. And what we do on a daily basis is we help so many companies with this. And if you want to gain some insight on how you can have a comprehensive marketing strategy for your restoration company, you can certainly schedule a call with me by going to restorationmarketing.com/calendar. You can call this number. Ethan on my team will be love to book you on the calendar, and we can talk about your specific situation. I know I have some comments in there, and I'm gonna get to those in just a second, so I'm not going anywhere. But if you want to talk to me directly about your specific situation, go to restorationmarketing.com/calendar, and you can schedule that. If you want all the resources, the replays, all of that from this webinar, you can go to restorationmarketing.com/2025. Every single month, we have a new topic that we're going to cover. Last month was about local service ads. The previous month was websites and SEO and all those sorts of things. So every month we cover a different topic, and you'll be able to get a replay on that. It usually takes us 24 hours to get that replay up on there, but you can download these assets that are out there today. So again, if you have any questions, you can schedule a meeting at restorationmarketing.com/calendar, and we can speak specifically on your issue. Now, let's dive into some of the comments out there. Clean Restoration, you had a comment. Is it possible I have just Google guaranteed, but no Google ads? Let's see. Would like to have an additional pins on the map for better visibility in new areas. What's the best strategy? Okay. So, second location strategies. Yes, this can be complex. I'm going to end my screen share here with you guys so that I can talk to you directly. But yes, let's talk about second locations. Now, second locations are very common in this industry and a lot of home services industries. But what tends to happen is you don't have the paperwork ready for that to happen. Google no longer will allow you to just throw up a maps listing and get a postcard in the mail. You have to verify and you have to verify everything with them in order for that to happen. Some other businesses not so much, but water damage, there's been so much spam listings that it is a very, very big issue. So here's my tips on this. Here's the big if your profile that you have right now is not strong and you don't have enough reviews to compete with your competitors right now on that main profile, don't even think about doing a second profile because you're not going to have enough reviews or you're not going to have enough fighting chance to get that secondary profile up there. But if you are dominating on the first profile and you're trying to expand that out further, it's a very good strategy to have a second profile. It's a satellite office. You're doing work out of a satellite office. Google will not trust it if it's a totally fake office. Okay. UPS boxes, mailbox centers, Regis centers, those don't go that route. Okay. Think about this as a 12, 24-month strategy or longer that you have a satellite location across town. And in order to do that, you have to make sure you're dominating on your first profile, number one. And number two, you have to have your documentation in order. You have to have a business license or DBA set up with that new location. Google is going to ask for it. They will not trust it unless you have your documentation in order. So if the secondary profile you're going to use restoration company and your original profile is restoration company, that's fine. Phone number, and you want to have a different URL linking to it. You can still have your main domain.com, but have that new location have a different URL for that. So restorationcompany.com/ whatever that location is. Okay. And so you you want to have your documents in order. Business license, it has to say your exact company name, same exact address, all of those things. You need to have a sign that has to be present on the building because you're going to have to do a video verification. And if you do that video, you don't have a sign, and there's 10 other business signs there, and your sign's not there, you're going to run into an issue. Okay. So it is definitely worth it in the long run, but you got to win on your first profile first. Um, and again, I don't know your name there, Clean Restoration, but um, it's definitely a very effective strategy. We have a lot of clients that have multiple profiles and win because you can, once you get that secondary profile set up, your satellite office, quote unquote, you can have another Google guaranteed profile linked to that as well. Hopefully, did that answer your question? What's worth more in the long run, playing it safe and building slow but steady, taking a risk, faster exposure? Again, it goes back to, are you winning on your main profile? If you're winning on your main profile, then you can expand. If you're not, I wouldn't expand because time and money investment, and you're diluting that across two profiles, it's not going to be worth it. Okay. Got it. Okay. Lots of other questions here. Okay. What is needed for a DBA to be approved for additional locations? You have to register it with the state or the local town, is what I said, want to say there. So you can have, let's say you registered for your EIN, right? And you have a fictitious name. A lot of states have what's called fictitious names, and you can have multiple names associated to your main corporate entity. So if my main corporate entity is ABC Restoration, I can have ABC Restoration of location, and that can help expand your profiles out, if that makes sense. But yeah, the DBA is associated to an official document, a government document that you can show to Google that this is legit business at this address. And if you don't have all those documents in order, it's not going to work. Now, if here's the other situation I see a lot is people will try to get their home address on the profile. Sometimes it will happen. Other times Google is going to come back and say, do a video and show me the sign on your house that customers can come visit you and find you. Most of us aren't going to put a sign on our house, right? You're usually not going to get that house address on there, no matter what documentation you have in place. Okay, so any other questions? Mike, if I have not done a video verification, can I press that and will it help me rank? Mike, it just depends on your specific situation. If you go out there and search for your company name and your business profile shows up, then you can, and it still shows verification pending, definitely do the video because the profiles then trust more, and then you can actually submit reviews to that profile. If it's in pending verification, you're not going to be able to get any more reviews usually added to that profile. So a big factor there. Hopefully that answered your question, Mike. Let's see here. How many locations can we have? Is a listed. You can have as many locations as you want, as long as you have the documentation in place for it. I wouldn't put them very close to each other. But, for example, let's say you're in Los Angeles. I wouldn't go and put 10 locations out in Los Angeles. To do that, you're gonna have lots of capital to do that, number one, and you got to get lots of reviews, or otherwise having a location to have a location doesn't matter if it doesn't have the reputation to back it up. Okay, is it possible to have just a Google guaranteed but no Google ads? How can I check that? It definitely is possible. Google ads is typically referred to as pay-per-click. Google guaranteed is a verification process you have to go through where you submit your insurance, your IICRC certification, connect it to your Google Maps profile, and you can have a Google guaranteed profile set up without having pay-per-click. Google Guaranteed is a Google Ads program, so it is still a Google Ads account, but they're two different types of things. And so if you go to that resources, restorationmarketing.com/2025, it'll talk to you all. There's a webinar about how to set up your Google Guarantee profile, Google Local Services profile, and how to get all that connected, and has all those details in there. What is the right documentation, please, for DBA situation? Every so DBAs are basically what are called fictitious names, doing business as, right? And so, you typically, your accountant can help you set those up or help you get your business registered with the state. And lawyers can actually do that. An attorney can actually do that, help you through that. A lot of states have an online ability where you can just say, I need to create a DBA for my company. How do I do it? Just go out there and search. It's different all over this place for every state. So that's that. We have an old GBP with no login information. That's a tough one. You can go to google.com/business, and then I think there's a support link on there. If you don't have access to the login details to that one, man, it is super tough. But you can submit a ticket with Google support. They will respond to you within 48 to 72 hours. Usually it's canned response. So then you got to go back and provide them documentation. Hey, this is our business license. Here's our email address. So all of those are very different scenarios, and it can be very painful to recover that. If you don't have a lot of reviews on that profile, it's probably not worth it. But if you do have a lot of reviews, definitely try to recover it and go through Google support for that. Vicky, hopefully that was helpful. Website is restorationmarketing.com is our website. And if you want access to the resources, just do restorationmarketing.com/2025. I will add that into the URL there. There you go. Let's see here. I recovered several GBP accounts for several small business already. It is possible. Yeah, it's 100% possible. 100% possible. It can be very frustrating, but it's very possible. Go to, for the Google support, go to this URL, Vicky, and there'll be a support link on there. And you just have to give them as much information as possible. If that Google Maps listing is still live out there, use that link inside of the support ticket. I promise you that you sometimes you start with a support ticket and it's a very canned response and it doesn't go anywhere, and they close out the support ticket. Sometimes you open up a new one and then you go through that process again with a new rep, and you have better luck. But it can be super frustrating dealing with Google support sometimes, but they have been much better now. So Google, don't get mad at me. They have been much better. So Google's always listening. So it's been better. Let's see. I think I've gotten a lot of questions. Yeah, you're very welcome, Vicky. And if you want, feel free to schedule a call with me and we can look at your specific situation. Again, I'm not here to sell you or anything like that, but if I can help you in any way, definitely let me know. Again, you can do it that way. So thank you very much for your time. Yeah, no problem. Very happy to help. Clarification. You mentioned maps matching profile at the beginning. Does Apple Maps have an impact? Yeah, Apple Maps is an interesting territory. They're going to be, I really believe Google and Apple is going to sever their relationship at some point. Right now, the way things work is Apple actually, Google pays Apple to be the default search engines and all that stuff in Apple's phones. Okay. And so Apple has made a concerted effort to make Apple Maps more vigilant. Actually, by my office here, I saw, I'm sure many of us have seen those vans with Google with a dang video thing on there, and they're scanning the streets. I saw an Apple one 2 weeks ago, right? And so I believe what's going to happen here at some point, that relationship is going to sever, and Google and Apple are going to have a competing Maps profile. There already is an Apple's profile out there right now. And so definitely set that up, get it verified, fill out all the information for that. So that way you have that profile and that trust from that. So Mike, hopefully that was helpful there. But I think there's definitely, I don't know if it's going to happen in 2025, but Google sees the dollar signs that Apple sees the dollar sign that Google is making on these different ad platforms, and I'm sure they're going to get into that arena. So, um, and it's a good brand signal by having a Apple Maps profile. So, all right, so we are at the hour time frame. Yeah, no problem. We're at the hour time frame. There will be a replay. Thank you so much for everybody that is stuck around here on the call. If you have any lingering question, I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes here, but hopefully you got some value out of this today. Please make sure you got one or two things out of it and take action on them. Don't sit on it. Get a review strategy in place, and then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. What do I think about voice command options? Yeah, I mean it's an important factor, right? Who hasn't used their phone and said, "Hey, Siri," or whatever you want to call her, Alexa, who should I call, right, for this? Schema has an important factor in that. There's actually voice schema that you can put on your website. Your local listings, Yelp has an important factor on it. Having reviews on Yelp is a trusted signal for voice search. I hate their sales department because as soon as you sign up with a Yelp profile, they're going to pester the crap out of you to buy ads. But having a strong Yelp profile helps with voice search. And all of the local listings that Yext provides helps with local voice search as well. And then something called People Also Ask, creating content on your website related to what people are asking is another factor that helps with local voice search. How do we register for a link for all of them? And we have to go to each one of them. There's a company called Yext, Yext, that you can register all of them under. We do this for all of our clients. We have a partnership with them, and it allows you to distribute to about 100 different sites and then have that information consistent. But Yext has that set up too. Yext, exactly. Yep, that's the one. That will help you get a lot of those profiles set up and have the information consistent. Very welcome. All right. My voice is about gone. I need to go get a drink. Thank you all for all the questions and being a part of this webinar. I appreciate your attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at restorationmarketing.com. And until next time, thank you.